You're listening to the Hypnotic Empath, and I'm your host, Robyn Holm. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, a body talk practitioner, and an empowered empath with over 2 decades of experience helping sensitive souls like you reconnect with your power. This podcast is a space for deep healing, subconscious transformation, and real world support. We'll do some guided hypnotherapy sessions, we'll talk to some incredible guests, and we'll help you learn to release what isn't yours, to protect your energy, and to finally feel safe being you. It's time to move from surviving to thriving. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Hypnotic Empath. I am your host, Robyn Holm, and I am joined here today with Jenn Mitchell. And she is an expert in abundance, which is why I really wanted to bring her on here to talk to you today. And I'll explain a little bit about what I mean about that. Jenn is a subconscious wealth strategist. She is a quantum hypnosis practitioner and an NLP practitioner, and she specializes in helping people break through the ceilings that they have, keeping them stuck and not allowing them to receive all the abundance and all it is that their heart would desire. Did I get that right, Jenn?
You absolutely did. Thank you so much, Robyn. What a beautiful intro.
Oh, I love having you here. So could you explain just a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do?
Absolutely. As you mentioned, I am a subconscious wealth strategist. I love the work that I do. It's so amazing. I'm so fortunate that I get to help entrepreneurs specifically scale their businesses, step into their passions, achieve those goals, dreams, desires that we have in our business. And I do it all through the lens of hypnosis, through subconscious work. Oftentimes, we focus so heavily as entrepreneurs on strategy that we forget all about the foundation of our business success, which is mindset. And for many of us, we're struggling with subconscious patterns that are silently sabotaging our success. And so I get to shed the light on that, and I get to help people rewire their mind so that they can achieve their dreams, those high cash months, align for the clients that they're calling in, and be successful in their business ventures.
I think the way that that all plays into this idea of abundance is that
Mm.
sometimes we can think, well, I can't have a job that I love and I'm excited about going to and also make money. Like they have a hard time following their passions because they're worried that there can't be abundance. You can't love it and also get paid to do it. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I think that so many people subconsciously struggle with the concept of abundance. And here's the reason why, Robyn. It's because we've been conditioned. We have been conditioned to believe that abundance, success, it has to come through sacrifice, through hustle, constant proving, and that just leads to burnout. It doesn't necessarily equate to success. So for entrepreneurs, this often means chasing strategies, and while their subconscious is still wired for scarcity without even knowing it. So hypnosis flips that switch by aligning the subconscious so that we can actually call in that abundance with ease and with clarity, and not necessarily through sacrifice, through hustle, through hyper strategies.
How will somebody know if they have a subconscious block?
I love this question because so many people, we have subconscious blocks and they're just unrecognized. So the one way to identify subconscious blocks is through the clues of behaviors. And yes, so some of those behaviors, number one that I would say that I work with the most, that I see pop up most frequently, is procrastination. Especially as an entrepreneur, like, you have this big task that you need to do and it's so important, but you're like, oh, I'm going to put it off. And then you go focus on something smaller, less important, rather than the thing that's going to bring you closer to success. So we find ourselves procrastinating on things. Well, procrastination is a clear indication that you have a subconscious block, and that subconscious block is the fear of success. So we keep procrastinating, 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 because if we, let's say, complete that task, we're going to be successful, and that scares us. And our subconscious mind is wired to protect us. The second most common one, I'll just go over the two most common that I see, is the fear of being seen. The fear of being seen yeah, it comes up a lot for people, and that can show up is in avoidance, avoiding, for instance, social media, for those of us who depend on social media to find our clients or to spread the word about our services. The fear of, being seen also translates to maybe not going to networking events, or when someone asks us about our business, we don't know what to say or how to say it. All of that, those behaviors, it is a clue that you have the fear of being seen. So
Mm.
yeah, those come up all the time. There's so many of them. I have like a whole list, but those are definitely the two most common.
So why on earth would somebody have a fear of being successful?
Mm. Again, the fear of success, our subconscious is wired for safety. It will do anything to fulfill its job of keeping us safe. So for some people, the fear of success can be scary, and our mind is wired to believe that it is scared. We might be scared, for instance, that if we're successful, we're going to lose our loved ones. Or if we're successful, people are going to think this or that of me. And so it scares us subconsciously. And then that is where the block comes in, is because our mind is hardwired to protect us from anything, even if it's
Mhm.
success. And consciously we desire success, but subconsciously we don't. A lot of people, they have no way of knowing if they have those blocks, and so the conscious mind, the analyzer, the analytical mind, is really controlling, and these beliefs that are hidden, they go unrecognized for years, oftentimes sabotaging everything that we're working so hard for.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. I had the fear of being seen. I didn't know that I had that fear because I have always worked with people. Before I was in fitness, I was in the service industry. I was a bartender, I was a server, traveled all over the world doing that. Then I was in the fitness industry for 10 years.
Mhm.
I trained instructors with Zumba, always like I was in front of hundreds of people every single weekend. I was a group fitness instructor. And then I got into body talk and I successfully built a business that way. And then I took a long break because I had my 2 kids. And at the end of that, here I had trained in clinical hypnotherapy. I wanted to add that to my services. But I was very aware of the fact that now, at this time, if I'm gonna be building a business, because I've always been an entrepreneur, but if I'm gonna be building a business, I'm gonna have to do it with social media. And I had a real aversion to being on social media. I never had posted a video. There was not a video of me on the internet before about a year and a half ago. Even with my fitness career, like there were no videos. And now knowing that I was gonna have to do video, it's the way that we build businesses now. It's how we get clients. It's how people get to know us. It's how people know if they resonate with us. And for example, Jen, I found you on Instagram, and
Yeah.
from watching your videos, I was like, "Oh, I like this girl. She has something for me." I resonated with you because you put yourself out there, and what I saw, that resonated for me. So I knew I was gonna have to do that, but I had a huge block. So
Mhm.
I had a therapy session on it, and exactly that, it was a fear of being seen. I didn't even know that. And it went back my in my session, my subconscious took me back to a memory at 3 years old that I had to reframe at that time and understand this fear of being seen was not actually valid now here in this time and place. So we were able to bring it forward to now, busting through that belief of fear of being seen.
Mhm.
That session was done, I went and recorded my first Instagram video and loaded it right then that
Mhm.
day. And I was able to break through that because I really did want to. I wanted to be able to break through. And then I also was able to realize, because sometimes with the fear of being seen as an empath, I
Mhm.
was so scared that I would say something on the internet where anybody can see it or hear it that would offend somebody, that would alienate somebody, that would hurt somebody's feelings, or I would get corrected, or someone would say, "Well, that's not right." I was terrified of that. And then
Mhm.
through it all came back to this belief of this fear of being seen. So once I cleared that, I was able to recognize that the beautiful thing about the internet is this. If somebody does not agree, they can just scroll on by. If somebody doesn't like what I have to say, they might leave a terrible comment because sometimes people are like that. But in essence, as long as I'm speaking from my truth, I'm sharing my experiences and my opinions, and I'm true to that. There are going to be people out there that are going to resonate with that.
Yeah.
And then those are the people. And those are the people that I'll build community with. And the ones that don't give a hoot about what I say, that's fine because they're going to find somebody else that they're going to resonate with. So I that was a truth that I knew, but I couldn't accept
Mm.
until I had done the subconscious work.
And I'm sure that your therapist at the time who helped you with the fear of being seen might have explained this, but feeling called to share this with your listeners as well. From a subconscious standpoint, the reason why you were able to show up in your business before, and you were, conducting classes and you were speaking live, and you didn't have, that fear, but then all of a sudden when you went to go do it on social media, you panicked and you froze, and or you were blocked, is because it was something new. So anytime that we're doing something new, our body, our mind goes into fight or flight mode because we're scared. We're like, oh my goodness, this is out of my comfort zone. So going live on social media, although being in front of people was not, was you were experienced with that, social media was something that was new for you. So that is why it translated into that fear of being seen. And this happens with entrepreneurs all the time. Anytime that we step outside of the comfort zone and want to do something new, that can initiate that block.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Mhm.
And my practitioner at the time was not aware that that was gonna be the block that we were working on. It came up after the memory revealed itself. We were just working on the fact that I was felt so blocked, and I knew that I should be posting, but I just couldn't make myself do it until after the session.
Yeah.
And then so no matter how much my conscious mind wanted to do that thing, my subconscious believed that that was unsafe.
Mhm.
So my conscious mind couldn't win. And so people think, "Oh man, why don't I have more willpower? Why don't I have more drive? Why don't I have this?" Well, probably because your subconscious believes something that will not allow you to do the thing that you wanna do.
Exactly. And that's why aligning the subconscious and the conscious mind is so important, because you could consciously desire something all day long. But if your subconscious is not on board, you're going to see those manifestations not come into fruition. You're going to see those dreams and desires as, struggles because we haven't done the mindset work. Honestly, everybody in business, they feel like focuses so much on strategy, but the truth is, Robyn, is that that's only 20% of the success in business. 80% of it is the foundation, which is mindset. And the
80%.
80% of business success is mindset work. It's a lot. To be an entrepreneur, you need a really solid foundation. There's so many struggles that we go through, so many fears and doubts, and it's not a 9 to 5 type of job. The success and whether or not you can support your family often depends on you being successful. So if you're not working on mindset and having a solid mindset, to carry you through the struggles of entrepreneurship, it's going to be a lot more difficult path. So I always tell that to my clients. 20% is strategy and 80% is the foundation, which is mindset.
That reminds me of when I was going through IVF to conceive my daughter. So it took me 12 years to get pregnant with my son and
Wow.
lots of IVF. Like in total, we went through about 10-year IVF
Oh
journey.
my
So it was long.
goodness.
And I got to the point, as you can imagine, I got
Mhm.
to the point that I was like, I can't imagine actually seeing a positive pregnancy test after 12 years of negatives. So
Mhm.
with my son, that's how I discovered hypnosis. That's how I got into hypnotherapy because my hypnotherapist who specialized in fertility, I interviewed her last week, Lindsay Eastburn. She helped me work on the subconscious blocks that I had to conception. So that's what we did. And then when I did my IVF round, then that I did conceive my son, it was with the background of hypnotherapy. So that's what changed was my subconscious. So I still needed IVF to get pregnant,
Mhm.
but it didn't work before I had the subconscious blocks revisited and removed. Well, then I went to go conceive my next baby and it started not working again. So I had a frozen embryo, transferred that embryo, and at that point I was expecting success because that was then my 3rd pregnancy with this protocol, so I
Mhm.
believed that it was successful. Ended up in a miscarriage that time.
No.
And then I had to go through 2 more rounds of IVF before I got another pregnancy, a positive pregnancy. So that middle round of IVF, I was very defeated. I had had a loss. I had a 2-year-old at home. It was really hard, and we only got 1 embryo that time, and when we transferred the embryo, I was really positive, my mindset was solid for about 24 hours, and now this was probably the 8th embryo transfer I'd had in my life. Some of them had been successful, but most of them hadn't been, and on day 3, I crashed so hard. I crashed so hard into a terrible mindset of failure, of just feeling that failure already happening, like it was already negative. And I mean, it wasn't even close to being that yet. Well, as it turned out, that pregnancy did not take. I did not get pregnant. And then I went into a year spiral with my mindset. And then I ended up still working with my hypnotherapist, but then I worked with a mindset coach.
Mm,
And whole thing was, yes, mindset is the 80%. So I worked with her on my underlying belief systems and all of those things in combination with hypnosis. And then when I was preparing for my last round of IVF, that I did get pregnant with my daughter that time,
okay.
the thing that was so different was how I saw it, was my mindset
Yeah.
around it, was getting so in touch with the success, and her my coach's method was we did some writing, which I'll ask you about in a moment, where we're putting ourselves into the future as if it's so. We did vision boards. We really worked on bolstering that belief that it was so and that it was true, and then that pregnancy did take, and I have a beautiful, healthy daughter. Mhm. So I believe in the concept of mindset being so important, so deeply, because it was definitely true.
Mhm.
And I wanted to ask you about something that you call scripting, because I believe that this was one of the ways that I was able to shift my mindset when I was working to conceive my daughter, and I know it's one of your specialties, so could you share about that?
I would love to. So, besides hypnosis, scripting is the second most powerful way to call in whatever it is that we desire. And it's something that's very different style of writing. It's not anything like journaling. I'd like to say like journaling, in my opinion, and I think that this is the way that most people journal, is you're focusing a lot on maybe things that have happened in a life that are not necessarily positive. So with journaling, now every single time that you put pen to paper, you're engaging with the neocortex portion of the brain, which is the part of the brain that's responsible for planning. So if you're sitting there and you're journaling maybe not so positive things about why does this always go wrong or why me, you're literally programming your subconscious mind, the neocortex, to keep that pattern alive and to keep that pattern going. So scripting is completely different. So what we do with scripting, and I work on this with my students inside my course, this is the prep work before hypnosis, is you get crystal clear on exactly what that desire is that we want. And then we write about it from the first person as though it's happened, and we infuse it with the emotion. So, for instance, an example, like let's say you have a goal to call in $100,000 by the 31st of December. I would script when I put my pen to paper, I'd be like, oh my goodness, I am so excited that I finally received the $100,000 in my bank account today. And I would literally would like, oh my, like have all the emotion coming in because your subconscious cannot tell the difference. So fuse that with the emotion. Today was the most amazing day. I write the date down, Tuesday, December 31st, 9 a.m., like in the corner, like it's my Dear Diary journal. And I write about it from the first person. My husband was there and we got the amount in the bank or whatever it is you're calling in, just an example. And you write that every day and you believe it. And you write every single day that date. So you need to anchor it with a date. You need to anchor it with feeling. You need to have clarity and you need to repeat it. And that's the process of scripting. And it's, really powerful. Uh, I have scripted so many things. And actually, I would love to share a funny story if I can, because this is how powerful scripting is. I really wanted to go on this show, like so bad. I was calling in this specific podcast. I love podcasting. And I wanted to go on this podcast of this lady. And so I was scripting every single day that I was going to go on her podcast. And it was October of 2021. And I was writing it. I'm going to meet her. She's going to invite me on the podcast. It's going to be so amazing. I was scripting it, and scripting it. October 2021, I got invited to this networking event, and who walks into the door with this? She's a celebrity. This celebrity, I was like, oh my God, it's October. It's 2020. What the I did not anticipate her to be there. And so was like, okay, I need to go talk to her. So I went over there and I started talking to her and I was like, I would love to come on, your podcast and share my story with your audience. She's like, absolutely, babe. Here's my card. She was like, this is my personal cell phone. She was like, text me and I will have my assistant email you. Well, I have been scripting about the show. I didn't realize, Robyn, that she had multiple shows. So this is how powerful scripting is. I got invited onto her show, but it was not the one that I wanted to go on. it was
Oh,
it was inside like a very small container with her high level clients, which was amazing, which was great, but it wasn't exactly what I envisioned. And the reason why I wanted to share the story is because the number one most important thing about scripting is specificity. Cannot say that word all of a sudden. Specificity. You know what I'm trying to say. And that's
yeah.
really, really important because as you see, I was scripting and scripting and scripting everything aligned, the person, the date, the month, the invite, but the wrong show because I left that tiny detail out. So for people who do want to engage with scripting, make sure that you have hyper clarity and that you're super specific on exactly what you want to call in because it will come true.
That is super cool. And do you ever find that the reason somebody might have a hard time with being hyperly specific is because they don't feel like they deserve that little piece of specificity where they're like, "You know what? Oh, that's too much. No, no, it's too much. It's too much. I'll just ask for just this." Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, and I do notice that. And that, actually it also links in with some other behaviors that I see. It's like people don't believe that they're deserving enough.
It's worthy.
And that's why. And I see that a lot with entrepreneurs who undercharge for their service because they feel bad or they don't think that their information is valuable enough or that they deserve that. So absolutely, it all kind of goes hand in hand. Giving away too much information or free advice, spending extra time above and beyond with people. So all those things can be related and they're linked to subconscious beliefs that we have.
Mhm. It's a big one that I notice with my clients, especially with my empathic clients,
Mm,
where they can feel, "Oh, that's too much." Abundance, in my opinion, is being able to call in everything that you desire in your heart and to know. So sometimes it'll be like, "Well, I already have the job that I love. I can't also get paid well for it." Or, "Oh, I'm helping people. I can't also get paid well for it." Or, "I have a husband that I love, a partner that I love, and my kids and my house. Who am I to also have all this money?" And the thing that I always say to my clients is the more abundance you have, the more you can help other people,
yeah.
the more you can share, the more you can pay it forward. So abundance is good for you. It is good for you. But it
Yes.
often comes back to these subconscious beliefs. Maybe we were told as a kid, why can't you just be grateful for what you have? Why are you always asking for more? And I catch myself with my own kids being like, why are you always asking for more? I'm like, wait a second. How about be grateful for what you have and always ask for more? You deserve more. You are worthy of everything that your heart desires. But we shut that down. And I think that we were shut down probably as kids too, or you were made to feel badly for wanting more, or you were like, oh, well, think about all the kids in Africa when you don't want to finish your plate. Think of all the kids in Africa who are starving and have no food. It's that we have to think about that, about how we are programming their subconscious, because before the age of
Mhm.
7, kids are in a constant state of hypnosis. They're just downloading their environment so that they can be safe, right?
Yes.
And so if we think about what we were taught about wanting more and about abundance, my clients will often say, "Oh, I feel selfish. I feel selfish when I ask for more." So I think that scripting would be a really great way to get specific and
Mhm.
to challenge your subconscious to be like, "You do deserve more, actually. You do deserve more. You deserve everything." And it's not like you're gonna be selfish and hold it all for yourself. The more you have, the more you share. The more you have, the more you give, the more generous you can be. So it's good for you to be abundant.
Definitely. And one thing I always tell my clients is about shifting that lens, changing your perspective of how you look at things. And you did a really good job of framing that, Robyn, is And this is one thing that I always say too, is that the more that you have, the more that you can give. You're on a mission to help people. You can't help people if you don't have the ability to do so. And I do find that oftentimes empaths struggle with receiving abundance because in our minds, in order to receive, we're taking from others, right? We can have that perception. And so, like, even in business, that shows up, as I mentioned earlier, is undercharging or overgiving or resisting growth. But the truth is you have to allow yourself to receive so that we can fulfill our mission and our desires, and then we can go on to help people. The more we have, the more we can give.
Oh, I love how you said one of the reasons empaths have a hard time receiving is because they see it as taking from someone else. That I have been trying to put my finger on that for years. Thank you. That is
Yeah.
a huge nugget because it feels like, oh, that's I was like, why do we feel like it's selfish or bad to receive? Ah, because it feels like we're taking it from someone else. So if I
Mhm.
charge what I know that I'm worth, then somebody else is going to be out of pocket. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, essentially, yes. That's exactly. And that's why also, again, we undercharge, we overgive, sharing too much information. I even used to stay on an extra hour sometimes with my clients. And I'm like, why am I doing this? And again, it's because as an empath, we have that perception that we're taking from others. And so we overgive sometimes, often.
How do we shift that, Jen? How do we shift that belief?
Mm. Through changing your lens, shifting the perspective. Now, the number one way that I think the most important way, the most effective way to shift any belief is through gratitude. And so, in the way that that works specifically for the situation that we're talking about is just being grateful for the fact that we have clients at all, or that people that we have the ability to share what we do with people. You know, one thing I find so fascinating, I would like to share, is the fact that I don't think that we stop enough and we look at this enough, is that how things have shifted over, like, let's say the last 30 years. So I always tell myself, I am so grateful that I can do business the way that I can. Think about our grandparents, our moms, even before the internet. Like, we can actually reach people globally in an instant. I mean, think about that. Like, let that sink in. Like, when in history, when in the history of the world have we been able to touch the lives of so many people? So, the right people who are meant to work with us, they will find us regardless of what our price point is. And so, by shifting that perspective and the lens at which we view our work, like, so it's okay if you charge a little more because there is somebody that's going to be at a different price point that will align with certain people, and you're going to align at your price point with other people's. And so it's shifting the perspective and then showing gratitude for the universe aligning you with the right people on a global scale.
Hmm. What would you say to the person who wants to shift from their 9 to 5 into an entrepreneurial role that would really fulfill their purpose, but they feel
Mhm.
scared about the money?
Yeah, that's a really big one, and I personally struggled with that as well. I'd like to actually take a moment to share a little bit of my story because that was something that kept me feeling trapped for so many years, Robin. I had climbed a corporate ladder, and what should have been the pinnacle of my career as a senior executive in the banking industry, I found myself at my lowest point because I was really unfulfilled. And it was so bad. I was even drinking in the mornings in the parking lot before work. And I would sit there on my phone and I would just scroll and scroll on my phone, looking for anything to help me escape that 9 to 5 job. I was so scared. Like, I literally thought I would be homeless if I pursued my dream of starting my own business. And I found hypnosis. I found a video by Dolores Cannon. So obviously, like, a YouTube video saved my life. And I knew in an instant that I needed to try this modality. So I went in for my first quantum hypnosis session and everything shifted for me. I was able to release that fear and realize that the universe is so abundant and the universe is always providing for you. And I know saying that doesn't translate and doesn't pay the bills, But releasing that fear and shifting my mindset helped to regulate my nervous system. It helped to regulate my body out of scarcity mode, out of, that fight or flight mode. So I was able to gradually start taking steps and progress. And so for me, what that looked like was I started taking clients on the weekend. I went and got my certification right away. Right away, I went and got certified. I started taking clients on the weekends. And then I started actually, I started using PTO and requesting it once day a week. So then not only was I doing it weekends, I was doing it on Friday and weekends. And then eventually I was just able to transition fully out of my career and into hypnotherapy. But
That
it
is so
yeah,
inspiring.
it started with rewiring. It started with releasing the fear. It started with, remembering the universe always provides. I mean, money is literally printed daily. I think we forget that. Money, cash, abundance, it's a frequency. Like there's literally an unlimited amount of abundance. Like money is literally printed every day. So, um,
Mhm. Do you identify as an empath?
absolutely. And here's the thing, I believe that everyone's an empath. We are all empath by nature. But the thing is whether or not that switch has flipped. So typically, people who identify as empaths are really flip that switch are those of us who have had some sort of an event that's happened, because it cracks us wide open when we experience trauma or we go through something that's tragic. That's usually what flips that switch and cracks us wide open and how we become an empath. But everybody has the ability and everybody is innately empathic. Just, I would say, a large majority of the population, they haven't, turned that switch. So yes, I
Mm.
am an empath. And that's actually one of the reasons why I shifted my work. Initially, when I started hypnosis, doing quantum hypnosis, I worked in trauma and helping clients, rewire their mindset and overcome traumatic events that have happened in their life. But because I am such an empath, I found myself really struggling to not take that on. And I remember the exact session where I realized, holy crap, this work is making me sick. Like I'm taking it on. I was in like a very tragic session with a client who had endured something like pretty horrific. And while she was kind of reliving the experience, because the mind needs to relive the experience sometimes in order to release it, but the subconscious does so in a safe way. The moment she was reliving that experience, my entire throat closed up. Like I couldn't hear. I got earaches and it was like shooting through all my whole throat and ears. And I was sick in bed for 2 weeks after. And I couldn't continue doing that. So I decided, me personally, as an empath, like I need to shift into something more positive because the quantum energy is so strong. So that's why I decided to work with business owners and make that shift.
Well, and that's neat because that's a boundary that you set up. And
Mm,
so I find, because you know that I do a lot of work with weight loss. And so that's something I've been working with for 22 years, first in the fitness industry, and then it would come up all the time in body talk as well. And then now in hypnotherapy, because I've realized there's such an empathic component to unexplained weight that you're just holding on to and cannot shift no matter what you do. And so what I have found in my practice is that the body is so smart and it will create a geographical boundary, a physical boundary between you and your environment if you don't have the protection that you need. So
mhm,
that's what weight is. But then you were able to create a physical geographical boundary just with the type of clients that you were able to take. And that was a really
mhm.
smart way to do it. When I
Yeah.
was in the service industry, I worked in nightclubs, and I could be the bartender behind the bar, but I could not be the cocktail waitress out amongst the people. Couldn't do it. I could be the
Yeah.
bartender. And I now realize in retrospect, it's because the bar represented that physical barrier for me because I didn't know
Oh.
yet. I didn't know empath until I was 35 years old. Had no idea. And so I
Mm,
was all, hmm?
I didn't either.
Okay, how did you figure it out?
Yeah, I'd love to share that. So I was working in a call center as a director in a very, very large call center. And I remember thinking, why is everybody coming to me out of like all the managers, all the supervisors? So agents, and there was about 400 agents in this call center, and we would take about 10,000 calls a day. So it was very busy. But for some reason, agents would put their phone on Do Not Disturb and they would come up to me and they'd be like, "Can I talk to you?" And I'm like, "Sure." And they pull me aside and they would dump everything on me, sobbing and crying about work and I was like, we're at work. I mean, like I couldn't figure out, and this was happening. Like I literally one day, Robin, I had a line of 3 people at my desk. Like I always think of it as like they were coming to fill up at my gas station and they were draining my energy. So I went for a Reiki session. Yeah, I was just starting to discover like Reiki. I was like, maybe I need to try this. I need to clear like all this energy because I was feeling so tired. And the lady's like, "Well, you're an empath." I was like, "What's an empath?" I had no idea. And she's like, "Are you zipping up?" I was like, "What does zipping up mean?" She's like, "Oh, honey." She's like, and so I told her like what was happening at work and how people were lining up at my desk and there's hundreds of people like and like so many of them were coming to me and just filling up at my gas station, taking my energy and like, "Bye, thanks." So that's how I realized it. And then I started, saging, Palo Santo. I would zip up every day is very important as an empath. You just imagine like a white light or protective shield around you as a barrier protecting your energy, and you can still be kind and nice to people, but you need to recognize the difference between like, hey, they're coming to you for advice and hey, they're coming to like unload everything on me. So you can still have that boundary. And it takes practice and time to learn that.
It does take practice, and I did a podcast episode just a little while ago, and I'll link to it in the show notes because boundaries is one of the things that I find
Mhm.
that empaths struggle with the most. And so I
Yeah.
did a podcast recording about it, and there's a hypnosis on there that you can listen to help reinforce your boundaries. But I also talk about why it's important to have boundaries in the first place and why you deserve to have boundaries. So if that's you, if
Mm.
that speaks to you, go ahead and I will put it in the show notes and you can find that episode and listen to that. And I found that no amount of, sage and showers and all of that would help me when I was working one-on-one with body talk in body talk until I started working with my hypnotherapist and she put in, I talk about this all the time, but it's important that you hear it a lot. She put in the bubble of protection for me. And that was what changed everything because the subconscious loves imagery and metaphor. So when you imagine you're zipping up and your white light and all of that,
Mhm.
you're telling your subconscious, this is what I'm doing as protection. That might work great for you. The bubble of protection is what's worked best for me because the bubble, I can see through it. It's flexible, it's magical, it can't be popped, but it bounces off other people's thoughts, feelings, emotions, opinions, judgments, and doesn't go back to them. It goes out into the universe because as an empath, if you feel like their stuff is going to go back to them, you would rather take it, right? That's kind of how empaths work. But instead, knowing that as it comes at you, it's going to bounce off and you can still perceive it. You can still recognize it. You can still read a room like nobody else, but
Yeah.
you don't
Oh,
have to
yes.
go into it. It's one of the reasons that, that we're good at what we do because you can read a room like nobody else.
Mhm.
The difference is when you have a bubble of protection, that is the difference between being able to read a room and just notice it and help when you want to, and reading a room, but taking on the responsibility into your own body, that it's your responsibility to fix it. And that's what a lot of empaths do before they become empowered empaths. And I believe that becoming an empowered empath, when you have that bubble of protection around you, that enables you to read the room, see where you're needed, really connect with people without taking the responsibility for their shift into your own
Mhm.
body. What do you
Mhm.
think of that?
Yeah, because there is a moment. And for me, it was actually took a lot of training to realize, okay, when that transaction, I'm gonna say transaction, was occurring. Because there is a difference between somebody coming up and being like, "Hey, Jen, can I talk to you?" And then they want your advice. And then there's a real subtle shift to when you start to take it on. So for me, a lot of it was being like hyper aware of when that transaction started to take place and then cutting it off. Like, "Oh, like, I'm so happy, that you came to me. Thank you so much. I'm glad I was able to give you the advice today." And being so with kind and, kindly and, being really nice about it. And it's okay to have those boundaries because we do take that on and we do take it on into the body. and I'll open up and share about this, because we connected, and we were chatting. Like, I've struggled a lot with my weight, and I think a lot of that largely is because I am an empath, and taking that on, like, nothing would get the extra weight off, like, no matter what, like, I would do. And a lot of that is because of, taking things on unbeknownst and not realizing it, and then holding it and storing it in the body. So it's a process, to let it go. But it starts, I think, first and foremost with us as awareness, being aware when that transaction starts to occur and stopping it. So not take,
Mhm.
at least for me, it did.
Yeah, that is really helpful, and I think it's the worthiness piece too of knowing that your energy is expensive and that not everybody has earned it. Of course, Taylor Swift had the most amazing quote that just came out here recently about how you have to think about your energy like a luxury commodity. Not everybody can afford it, and that is
Mm-mm.
okay. That
Yeah.
is okay. It's okay to enter into reciprocal relationships where you're both benefiting. I think that's a really important thing because we do love to help. I love to help. It's my favorite thing. I love to help. I love to know that I've made a difference. And if I don't have clear boundaries about that, I can really burn out.
We all can. Yeah. Burnout is something, and I feel like society has glamorized burnout for so many years. Like, working a 9 to 5, climbing the corporate ladder, a lot of things lead to burnout, and people are probably so much more burned out than they realize, because it's the condition that we live in, it's society, and we're stuck in fight or flight. So it's important to start recognizing those patterns and habits, where they start, and saying no, no, thank you.
Yeah, totally. What do you wish you had known 10 years ago?
What do I wish that I would have known 10 years ago? Actually, that hustling and pushing aren't the only path to success. Again, society really glamorizes that hyper hustle, and that the subconscious mind is so powerful. And when we align it, we can create more ease and more momentum, and we can actually step into our highest timeline just by working through the subconscious mind and letting go of expectations that society has and that other people have. For so long, Robin, I was actually scared to step into my vision of what I wanted for my future, because other people were telling me I had to stay in my 9 to 5. Other people were telling me I had to do life, the way that they saw that I had to. So I also wish that 10 years ago I realized, no, I don't have to listen to those people. They have their life and I have mine.
Mm, and that's where the bubble of protection really helps because that's their opinion.
Yeah.
That's their opinion. I actually love to tell this story because in my last round of IVF with my daughter, and I was with the fertility doctor who I'd, been working with for 10 years. The plan was that we were going to make the embryos, and I was certain through communicating with my daughter before she incarnated, like, where are we before we're here? I believe that that's possible. So I really got to know my daughter just in the spirit form through communicating with her through hypnosis and through meditation. And I really believed that she was telling me that she wanted to be a Leo. Whatever you do with that is fine. It's okay if that doesn't resonate for you, but for me, the relationship I created with my daughter, I really believed her personality was Leo, Leo, Leo. Leo, Leo, Leo.
Mine's
Wanna
a
be a
Leo
Leo.
too. So I'm
No, it is.
smiling.
My other
Yeah.
baby's a Leo too, my son.
Oh,
They're both
two
Leos.
2 Leos. Wow.
I know. So I really believe that. That's what she was showing me. And when I sat down with the doctor to talk about the IVF round, she was like, "Robin, the all of the statistics show that for a woman of your age," I was nearly 40, "for a woman
Mhm.
of your age, it is best if you do the stimulation, you retrieve the eggs, you make the embryo, and then you freeze it and let your body recover for 2 months. And then we start a whole we stimulate you and we get everything going, and then we transfer a frozen embryo." So that's she's like, "I have to tell you, it's a 75% difference in success if you freeze the embryo. 75%."
Wow.
Well, what we're doing this IVF round, if we did a fresh transfer where we transferred the embryo right away, she would be a Leo. And I was sitting in the office with the doctor and my husband, who both thought I was completely insane when I said I want to do a fresh transfer. And they're like, 75%, Robin, 75%. And he's like, I know. And my gut is telling me that we need to do a fresh transfer. This was not a popular opinion. Everybody told me that I was
Mm,
crazy, and they say, "You're rushing it. It's just because you're, you just wanna get it done." My husband really was like, "Oh, you're just rushing it." And I was like, I had to check in to ask if that was true. I had to check in with
yeah.
myself to be like, "Is it true that I'm rushing it?" And pregnancy is a partnership between you and your baby. It really is between you and your baby. And my baby was telling me that she wanted to be a Leo. So I stuck to my guns and we transferred that fresh embryo, and my daughter is a Leo. I was terrified, Jen. I was terrified because I was going
Yeah.
against the doctor's advice, and she had numbers that she was throwing in my face, and she was really she's like, "I'll support you." She goes, "Your intuition has definitely always guided you right." And she
Mhm.
had the grace to say that to me. That was really scary. And so in that moment, it's knowing yourself and knowing what is true for you and what your yes sounds like. And that is important that we really get down to that, because especially as an empath, we can really take on other people's opinions, and the bubble helps.
Mhm. Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
Well, I'm putting out a solo podcast next week, so it'll air before our podcast does, and that one is all about the bubble. So I'm gonna give the bubble to our listeners because I think it's so, so important. So I'll link that in the show notes as well so that you can go and put your very own bubble in for yourself, and may it bless you, and may it help you, and may it help you tune into what is true for you, because your true yes is the right yes. Your true, true self knows what's right for you.
Yeah, it really does. Intuition is everything, and I always trust my intuition. And think about it statistically, how often has your gut instinct been wrong? Like for me, I feel like never. But yet we as humans, we still doubt it for some reason, even though it's usually accurate. So learning to trust yourself and go with your intuition, even against popular opinion like you did. I can't even imagine, Robin, what that must have felt like. Oh my goodness. I was kind of feeling that in my body. Like for you, I was like, oh my goodness, that must have been so exciting at the same time. And it must have been so many emotions.
Well, and there's a part of you that's like, am I just batshit crazy? Is that all this is? And they think, because they thought I was batshit crazy. They really did. And I was like, "No, crazy feels different." Crazy feels different than a deep knowing. And I was
Yeah.
so sure I had gotten to know my daughter. I was so sure. And Jen, I tell you, she came out exactly the way that she appeared to me when I did my like I would meet her in my mental workshop, in my subconscious, I would meet her. And here's the coolest thing about this. So for those of you that are just listening and can't see me, I have dark, straight hair. And my husband is fair. Well, my daughter would show up subconsciously when I was doing my meditations and I would meet up with her. She showed up with this halo of curly blonde hair. Huge halo of curly blonde hair, ringlets, spirals. And I was like, "That is crazy, because where did that come from?" Like, Chris's hair is straight, straight. And I was like, "Well, that's so interesting." Well, if you were to see my daughter to this day, she is 4 years old now. She has a halo of curly blonde hair. And
Wow.
every look at her, I'm reminded of how strong my intuition is and what a gift. And I trust her when I see her in her hair, because she showed me exactly what she was going to look like. And her personality, when we met up in my subconscious, was exactly like it is now. And it helps me to trust her and her autonomy and her being, because it's often contrary to my popular opinion. I'll tell you that much. Parenting two Leos is very interesting. Yeah, because they both are very sure about their own opinion, that's for sure.
Especially the Leo with the boy energy.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
the Leo energy, man, that fire energy is whew, I love it.
Yeah, it
So,
is. Yeah, I do too. I mean, and she's really an incredible human, and I feel really lucky that I got to know her in advance, because that's what helped me to stay the course. And other people might have thought I was crazy, but I knew that that was true for me, and wow, like, what an amazing reminder for me
mm,
every day that my intuition was right and that I do have these abilities. And that makes me think about this whole quantum conversation, because for me, I was tapping into that quantum field. I was tapping into, where are we before we are here? This meat suit that we have right here. Where are we after we leave our meat suit, and where are we before? I don't know, I don't have the answers, but I do know that, babies in their spirit form, we can communicate with them. I've had guests on the show in the past about that. I'll have another one coming forward. But I know that you do quantum hypnosis. So what is the difference between quantum hypnosis and clinical or stage hypnotherapy? Those
I
are not the
love
same,
that
by the
you
way.
asked that. Yes. So, quantum hypnosis is very different than traditional hypnotherapy. The main difference is the depth in which we tap into the subconscious mind. There is this part of the subconscious mind has many different names: higher self, oversoul, superconscious, quantum self, inner wisdom. Lots of different names, but it all is the same thing essentially. And so with quantum hypnosis, we go very deep into the subconscious mind, bypassing those outer layers and tapping into, I'll just say, the quantum self. The reason why and what makes it quantum is the timeline capability that this part of our subconscious mind has. It stores every single bit of data that we've ever experienced in our life is stored in this supercomputer, the subconscious. So for business owners, and how this translates into my work with business owners is like, let's say we've identified that let's just run with procrastination, right? Because that's like probably the most common one. And we know that
Yep.
that's more than likely linked to the fear of success. So what we will do is I will ask your subconscious mind to scan your timeline of your life for the very first time that you experienced that fear of success. We find that and boom, right away. Oh, age 3. Okay, what is happening at age 3? What's happening in this moment? Oh, she colored a picture for her dad and she went to go give this photo to her dad. This is actually something that happened in a session. And the dad threw it away and that made her scared to create anything because it wasn't valued and that created like the fear of success around creation. Okay, so that we know that the dad was in the scene. We know like age 3. We know this and that. So what we do is we reframe that memory and we let go of those beliefs and then we clear it. We also find where it's stored in the body because these beliefs linger and are stored in different areas and places of the body. So we can clear that out, rewire it, and then we do like a lot of work around that. So yes, so quantum hypnosis is a lot of timeline therapy as well. We scan the past, then we look at the present. This is probably my favorite part because your subconscious knows every single decision that you're currently faced with today. And let's say that you're currently pondering a decision in your business and you don't know what's the right thing to do, what path you should take. Well, your higher self, your subconscious quantum self, can look at the decision and say, well, if you make choice A, this is the timeline it's going to play out potentially, this, and this. And in 6 months, you're going to find yourself here. Well, if you take path B and you make choice B, then this, and this will happen. And in 6 months, you're going to find yourself here. So we basically have, subconscious advice that can be spoken to us under hypnosis. So a lot of timeline therapy that we do. And then of course, we will wire all of those limiting beliefs once we find them and we clear the body.
Yeah, that's amazing. It sounds really so I'm trained in body talk as well, which has a lot to do with clearing the stories from the body. And
Mm,
then with clinical hypnotherapy, it's the subconscious root. And so I combine them all the time, which sounds like what you're doing too, which is super amazing and so
yeah.
effective. We can kind of
Yeah.
get in either way. We can go after physical symptoms and have that as our way in to find out what the story is, or we can go after belief systems and find out how they're being stored in the body.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, with quantum hypnosis, it's a very versatile modality. As I mentioned earlier in the pod, I used to work a lot with the trauma release, but for me, it really wasn't aligned anymore for me. It was making me sick because of the quantum energy so strong. But a lot of quantum hypnosis therapists will use the hypnotherapy as a way for healing. It's very, very powerful for healing. We can find out on a cellular level, like what is going on in the body, what's not perfectly aligned. We can clear it, we can find the root, and we can heal it. Subconscious can do so much. It really
Oh, it's
can.
everything. It's everything.
And I'm feeling called to share, even though like this isn't really like the style of hypnosis I'm doing right now. You mentioned earlier, like you don't know like where we are before we incarnate, and you don't know where we go after. I feel like I have a really good perspective on that. I mean, over hundreds and hundreds of clients, I've had a lot of stuff come in through hypnotherapy. So oftentimes, clients will say that there's a place between here and now where we pick our life. I've had many clients flip through and pick their parents, flip their life. So many of my clients have all said the exact same thing verbatim. I'm like looking at this screen, I can see my parents. They're giving me I have these life assignments that I can pick and I can choose. And then after we leave this place, once we transition, we go to the resting place where we can actually cleanse our soul from this life. And then we have the option, we're always presented with the option to accept a new life assignment, or we can stay in the place. It is the time and place between here and now. And I've gathered that
Mm.
information over and across hundreds of client sessions, like people pretty much per se verbatim, the exact same things. And there is a spirit realm where babies are that have, unfortunately passed or not incarnated.
Mm. Yep. That resonates for me for sure. And I do believe that our children pick us and that there's contracts that we enter into before they even incarnate. And it's funny because it shows right away their autonomy and how then when we are raising them, they still have choices and they had choices right from the beginning and they came in the way that they're going to be. And so having that kind of perspective has been really important to me. And if I had had kids when I first started trying, there's no way I could have held space for that perspective. There's no way. I was very much like, "I'm gonna tell you how it is, and you're gonna do it." And that would not have worked for either of my children. Like, it is definitely people, they struggle with sleep and, people be like, "Why don't you just tell them to go to bed?" And I'm like, I wish I had thought of that before." They, so much more nuanced than that with my kids. They're really neat beings, that's for sure, but it's a broad spectrum of emotion. Okay, so what is next for you professionally?
Oh, thanks for asking. I'm actually really excited because one of the things I've been working on is taking my one-on-one sessions that were previously reserved for my higher end clientele and wrapping it up into a course experience. So this was my way of expanding my impact on a global scale so that anyone can have a session with me anytime they want. So I'm going to be launching my course in the next few weeks. Basically, it's going to be like an on-demand session. So anytime that you want to grow in your business, you can push play on this hypnosis experience. And it's not just the hypnosis, it's also a course teaching clients, students how to identify limiting beliefs, rewire them, gain clarity. We do scripting. So that is up next. And then after that, I'm going to relaunch a new podcast. I love podcasting so much, which is why I was so excited to hop on the pod with you today. I did archive my previous podcast, which was in the top 1% globally, to focus on my course. And now that that's going to be launching, I think I'll be launch a podcast probably in early next year.
Oh, exciting. I will link to because can people access your previous podcast when it's been archived? Can you access it?
It is still up. Yes, it is the Soul Traveler.
Okay. I will put that in the show notes if anyone wants to check that out. And so do you still work one-on-one with clients?
No, I don't. I don't right now. No. I don't know. I may in the future. I may start doing one-on-one work again in the future, but for right now, I want to deliver my modality via courses so that I could expand my impact, helping more people. You only have so much time in a one-on-one capacity, and so I found that it's just really not a scalable model as far as helping as many people as I want to help on a one-on-one capacity. But who knows what the future will bring.
I relate to that so much, which is why I added in my group hypnosis for weight loss classes, and I take it from an empathic standpoint. So every time I do a class like that, we have covered abundance, we have covered boundaries, we have covered all kinds of stuff. So I love that I'm able to help more people at one time because I
Mhm.
only have a very finite amount of session times that I can work with people one-on-one because I'm a mom to 2 little kids, so I don't have that much time. So it's so nice to be able to do that and then also to have the podcast that can help anybody anywhere at any time.
Mhm.
It's a beautiful thing. So, yeah, I appreciate you saying that, and that's really exciting. Yeah. Well, thank you. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners?
Just to really be aware of patterns in your life. From a lot of this episode, we were talking about subconscious beliefs and patterns and how they run silently. So, the first step to identifying if you think that you might have a subconscious block anywhere in your life, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, is to really start to analyze those behaviors. Look at your behaviors because those will be subtle clues to indicate if you have a block. And just to remember that abundance is everywhere and to focus on opportunities and not so much the lack of.
Because where your attention goes, your energy flows.
Yes.
Yeah, so do
Practice.
you use it hmm?
Sorry, go ahead.
Do you use a daily gratitude practice? Like, do you write a gratitude list or
Yeah, that's actually what I was gonna say, but my mind doesn't say practice gratitude. It is the number one way to shift your thinking from scarcity into abundance. And before I even get out of bed every morning, the first thing, as soon as I open my eyes, I start going over exactly what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that I woke up today. I'm thankful for my husband, my son, my house. When we start focusing on gratitude, everything follows. And if anyone ever experiences anxiety, it is the most effective tool to also transition out of an anxiety state is by focusing on gratitude as well.
Mm. And I will caution you to not fall into the trap though of toxic gratitude, which is what I was saying before. Sometimes with abundance, we can be like, well, look at all the stuff I have to be grateful for, therefore I should
Mhm.
never want anything else. That's not
Yeah,
what we mean. What we mean is spending a moment thinking about the things that you are grateful for, knowing that as you put your energy on those things and you feel the feelings of gratitude, that you are bringing in more, that you are bringing in more blessings and more of that love. And I remember when my husband asked me, like, why can't you just be happy with one kid? Why do you want to go for a second one? And I was like, I love my son so much that I want more. I want more of that. I want more of that love, of that co creation. I want more. And so focusing on him and the gratitude, absolutely, but that also was not to limit me and to make me feel badly for wanting more. It's focusing on the gratitude for what you have, knowing that that is bringing more, that you are opening up your heart, that you're able to receive more when you focus on what you do already have. Am I right?
absolutely. Yes, 100% agree. And it's easy to fall into that toxic gratitude rut. So, yes, I agree with that 100%.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jen. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing with us. And I think this is going to help a lot of people. So, in the show notes, I will link how people can get in touch with you and find your course. That sounds amazing. And yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Bye for now. Thanks for having me on the show.
You're welcome. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me today on the Hypnotic Empath. If this episode resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you'd follow the show, leave a 5-star review, or share with somebody who needs this kind of support. You can find more resources, hypnotherapy audios, and ways to work with me at robynholm.com. And don't forget, your sensitivity is not a weakness, it's a gift. Stay rooted in your power, and I'll see you next time.